Happy deadline day. It is Thursday, July 31st, and we have a loaded episode for you. Jack McMullen, I am Peter Apple. We're going to go over the deadline moves so far at the time of recording on Wednesday, July 30th. You will also see another episode on Friday recapping all of the moves from the deadline. And after Jack and I go over the moves that have already happened, we're going to welcome on Bailey, aka Foolish Baseball, to do deadline roulette. We're going to randomize a bunch of teams and make a bunch of trades that we like and rate them on a scale of 1 to 5 big booms. Shout out AJ Justice. I don't even know. I just
Big
think big
Justice, yeah. Big
Big
AJ, Big
Justice,
Justice.
AJ, I just think those guys are funny, so we're going to use it on a big boom scale. And it's all brought to us by the sportsbook born in Vegas. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether that be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JUSTBASEBALL. Why? First bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. But remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Jack McMullen, the Angels are buying.
How crazy is that, man? That makes zero sense to me. Huh? Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin, that's what we're going to talk right now. Dude, like, what are they doing? I thought Sam Blum of The Athletic put it really well. Let me pull this up real quick from him because he's kind of how I learned this news. And he opined a little bit. But Sam Blum, as it loads here, just tweeted that here we go. Um, the Angels have a 4.9% chance to make the playoffs this year, according to Fangraphs. Instead of selling and capitalizing on their improvement this year to put themselves in a good position moving forward, they're pushing their chips in the middle and praying for a river card. That's kind of what's going on right now. Like, in what world does it make sense for the Angels to go acquire Chafin and Luis Garcia right now?
Yeah, he also didn't mention that they have the sixth worst run differential in baseball at the time. And you know what's funny is on this show, all three of us have been saying they are going to buy. Like we know how the Angels operate. As long as they're almost slightly in contention, only a couple of games under 500, this team is going to go for it. That has been their MO now for a few years, right? We remember when they traded Edgar Caro for Lucas Giolito. We remember when they traded Luis Garcia away for 4 prospects. I thought that is the best way to handle a deadline for a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 11 years, a team that has one of the worst farm systems in baseball, a team with the sixth worst run differential, not just in the American League, but in all of Major League Baseball. Now, I have heard some pushback. There are some angry Angels fans in my DMs. There are some angry Angels fans in the comments because I also tweeted that they could part with players like Kenley Jansen, Taylor Ward, Luis Rengifo, Yoan Moncada. They could even get creative with some of their other pieces with years of control, or potentially they could trade Mike Trout, but they're not going to do any of that. They're going to buy instead. The reason and why we think they should sell is because of everything I just laid out. They have pieces that can net them not great prospect returns, but prospect returns. They're not going to compete to make the playoffs, or at least I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, and I would love to be wrong because they're buying, but I just don't see it. And then it's getting talent into this farm system when they don't really have much.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Go ahead.
No, I mean that's the big thing for me. Like you need to have a you need to have a realistic understanding of what your maximum ceiling is. And it seems like the LA Angels are reluctant to acknowledge that their ceiling is not World Series championship. If your ceiling is World Series, then you're good and you buy and you go as is. If your everything works out and we trade our prospects for buyers, if your ceiling is, oh, we'll see if this 5% shot at a wild card actually works, you're not doing the right thing. They need to recalibrate. If everything works and Mike Trout is a 900 OPS guy and Joe Adell is an 850 OPS guy and Zach Neto is a top 10 shortstop in baseball, guess what? They're still the fourth best team in the AL West. They don't have the roster to compete in Major League Baseball. And instead of looking at that with maybe the worst farm system in all of Major League Baseball, they say, you know what? Time to thread some needles.
And
They shouldn't be doing that.
people will say, and now we are recording a little bit earlier, so things of course can change. But
Things
You
can
know, people are,
absolutely change. For clear transparency right now, we're recording at 2:20 p.m. Eastern. We're recording
yeah.
this intro on Wednesday.
Yeah, so it might be a mistake recording right now, but we're recording with what we have. So we'll try and put this episode out as soon as possible so people can hear it. But, people are going to argue a couple more points on arguments back at, my tweet and other tweets by Sam Blum and others that they didn't give up much to do this, that it's not that big of a deal. Why are people freaking out? It's not really about the trade in a vacuum. It's more just about the direction that the Angels are going that I think we're upset about, right? It's not a big deal to trade Jake Eder and Sam Brown. But Jake Eder is a former top pitching prospect. He's a 26-year-old lefty who has had a couple of cup of coffees with the Angels so far. Decent stuff. Will he develop into anything? I don't know. But now the Angels don't have a chance to see. What they're going to do is just put Chafin and Luis Garcia in their bullpen. Is that going to help? Maybe a little bit, probably not, but you don't have the opportunity to see what Jake Eder becomes or Sam Brown. That's the point. It's not that these guys are electric prospects and I can't believe you made the deal. It's about the direction of the Angels in general, which is what is getting people like us upset.
Exceptionally well said. It's not the deals in a vacuum, because deals in a vacuum, it's totally fine. Hey, you want to bolster your bullpen, you go get middle relievers. Like, here you go. Here's Jake Eder, a guy who has been DFA'd before. Um, it's not the deal in the vacuum, to your point, that is upsetting. It is the reluctance to accept the truth about your franchise. That's the weird thing to us. And if it was just this year, I understand. If it was just the last 2 years, I understand. It's been since the inception of this show. It's been 5 years that they have worked against the grain saying, we got a shot. We got a shot. No, you don't. You didn't get to the postseason with Ohtani and Trout.
And the thing is with Angels fans that are keep coming at me about this, because there are a lot of them, that's why I want to respond to them. It's like, are you seeing that this is working? Big pause for a reason. Are you seeing this is working for you? Is this front office helping you? Do you have a good farm system? No. Do you have a good major league team right now? No. So over the years, has this worked? No. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And then the last pushback, I'm forgetting all the different areas of pushback. Oh yeah, here it is. So there are not fans of the Angels, but just general people in comment section saying, why are we making fun of the Angels for buying? Shouldn't we incentivize all teams to buy? I
We
get
should.
where you're coming from, where it's like you want the teams who never spend money to finally spend money on free agents. You want them to be competitive. I agree. And when we talk about specific teams, but it is a case by case basis. When we go after the Pirates, what we're talking about is you're only a few bats away from actually being competitive. Use the money because you never spend money, because look at the starting pitching on your team. You have
Yeah.
Paul Skeens. You could pull up Bubba Chandler. You have Mitch Keller. You have Heaney. You have Falter. You have so many arms at your disposal, plus a decent bullpen. If they added bats, that would be great. That's what we'll fight for. But we're not just going to randomly fight for teams to do things that are not in what we believe is in their best interest. Like just rooting for everybody to buy, that's just a useless exercise to make yourself feel good.
It is. It's useless. What we root for with all 30 organizations is a path to sustainable success. And right now, what the Angels are doing is not a path to sustainable success. What would be a path? Logan O'Hoppe working out for Brandon Marsh. A 1-for-1 swap. They weren't going to get anywhere with Marsh, so they move him for a guy that can catch for the next 6 years. That's the kind of deal that makes a
Love it.
lot of sense,
Right?
everyone. It's the path to sustainable success, and it looks very different for a bunch of different teams. The Phillies are going to go buy an elite closer at this deadline. It seems like the Yankees are not done right now. It seems like the Cubs are going to buy a starting pitcher and a bullpen arm. That's the way that they're going about it in 2025. But we also see teams, hell, I'm watching one every single day. We're seeing a team in the Miami Marlins, sick hat, by the way, huh?
Yes.
We're seeing some teams like the Miami Marlins figure out who's here moving forward, and they found an all-star in Kyle Stowers.
Yep.
They found an everyday shortstop in Otto Lopez. They know they have an everyday second baseman in Xavier Edwards, and they know they have one of the best pitchers in the game in Yuri Perez right now. So it looks different for everybody. Like the Brewers fell ass backwards into Andrew Vaughn, and guess what? It worked. And they don't need to go get somebody who's better than Rhys Hoskins now because they found a guy who's better than Rhys Hoskins, and it was in the Aaron Savali trade. We root for the path to sustainable success. It looks different for Miami than it does Milwaukee. It looks different for Milwaukee than it does Boston. It looks different for Boston than it does Anaheim, and it looks different for Anaheim than it does the Dodgers. But the LA Angels don't know what that looks like for themselves. And it's the most frustrating thing about all of this.
That's the point. It's just frustrating. We predicted on the show. We aren't surprised. I said that they would try and trade for Sandy. And the thing is, about this show is I'm generally an optimist. Except for my Yankees. That's where I get pessimistic. But I want to root for teams. When teams are going well, I buy into the hype. I love it. I get excited. So if the Angels go on a run here after buying, I will get excited. I will say that I'm wrong, but here's the thing. I just don't think that's going to happen. Point blank, period. And it hasn't happened for years. And they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. So if you don't understand why we're upset, I don't know what to tell you. We just want the Angels to be good. We want their fans to enjoy a team that builds sustainably from the ground up. We've applauded their draft. But when it comes to the deadline, I just don't think they know what they're doing. All right, let's keep moving on through these trades. Blue Jays got a bullpen boost, an in-division deal in the middle of a doubleheader. Seranthony Dominguez is headed to Toronto in exchange for Jerron Watts-Brown.
Yeah.
The prospect going over. What I will say quickly is I'm glad the Blue Jays are adding to the bullpen. Their bullpen has been really good in this long stretch of them just catapulting themselves to the top, even though they are really struggling against the Orioles right now. But we'll put that aside. The Blue Jays have been playing great baseball overall, especially since June 1st. And the bullpen has been a big reason why. But Arm has said this before. We've all said it, even though I have been a little hesitant to add in specific places. But regardless, Blue Jays add a very good reliever. I mean, Seranthony Dominguez has an ERA below 3.2 this year. He's got a strikeout rate over 30%. The only hole you could poke in his game right now is that elevated walk rate at 13.5%. But I think the Blue Jays are looking at his normal averages around 7 to 9% and saying, if that stuff holds and we can limit the walks a little bit more, this is a lockdown reliever. But I don't know much about the prospect they gave up.
He's good. Jerron Watts-Brown, Oklahoma State kid. He was a project and an exciting one at Oklahoma State. He started his college career at Long Beach State, and he was a good starter for them. Then he went to Oklahoma State, and it was 82 innings at a 5 ERA in his draft year. But Toronto still really liked what they saw, and I think it was an overslot third-round pick in 23. But Watts-Brown is a guy that doesn't light up the radar gun, but he has a feel for a couple of good breaking balls. He was punching out 11 and a half hitters per nine this year, 89 innings, 115 punch-outs. He's getting the walk rate a little bit lower. It's loud stuff and sharp breaking stuff. It's a matter of being within the strike zone. It feels like he could be that boom or bust back of the rotation starter, could also be a relief option for them and just rely on some breaking balls. I thought it was just a good trade for both sides. Toronto gets a guy that throws fuel in Seranthony Dominguez, and the Orioles bolster their pitching depth. He's a 23-year-old in Double-A. He could absolutely debut next year. I had no problem with this trade whatsoever. I thought the coolest part was Seranthony Dominguez walking clubhouse to clubhouse and the jersey being done so quickly that when he appeared in Game 2, the 8 on the back of his jersey was upside down for Toronto.
It reminds me of the Danny Jansen trade when he was traded between teams and he technically had a plate appearance for both.
Oh, in the same game because it was suspended. Yeah, that was an interesting one. The one I was talking with Kyle Seeloff, who's the TV voice of the Marlins on the bus, and he was like, it happened one other time recently. And I was like, yeah, I was searching my brain, and then I remembered Christian Vasquez. It was Sunday Night Baseball. It was the Red Sox and the Astros, and Christian Vasquez was traded from Boston to Houston, and one of the pieces in that return was Wilyer Abreu. So, but Christian Vasquez, it was literally he walked across the field from the Red Sox dugout to the Astros dugout, and that's how it happened. And it was just kind of a surreal moment on Sunday Night Baseball, and it had to be a surreal moment for Seranthony Dominguez yesterday in Baltimore.
Speaking of catchers and speaking about Danny Jansen, he's on the move again. The Milwaukee Brewers acquired catcher Danny Jansen from the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Rays also then acquired Nick Fortes from the Miami Marlins. I was thinking about tweeting this out, but I ended up not. I'll just say it on the show. The Rays hate having a serviceable catcher. They hate it. And not to say that Nick Fortes can't be a serviceable catcher, but he's, the backup for Miami. He's not exactly having that great of a year. The Marlins also have, of course, Augustin Ramirez and Joe Mack coming up, a really exciting catching duo. So it's not like they really need Nick Fortes. So he goes over to Tampa. Milwaukee gets a catcher in Danny Jansen. Not a huge deal, but a deal nonetheless.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. Judd Arenamo goes back to Tampa in that deal with Jansen going to Milwaukee. Milwaukee to Tampa is Judd Arenamo, and Arenamo is a kid that has hit about 300 over the course of his entire minor league career. He is a extend the zone, free swinger kind of guy that slaps the ball around. Um, Good for Milwaukee for bolstering their backup catcher situation and giving William Contreras a bit more of an opportunity to get off his knees. This is just better than Eric Haas. Eric Haas was brutal this year,
Yeah.
and Jansen is an upgrade. And then Tampa, I don't know how they kind of go about their business, to be honest with you, but Fortes, like, the OPS wasn't bad this year. It was at 650. It seemed like he was getting into his A swing a little bit more, and he's really good at handling a pitching staff. I know the Marlins are going to miss, that element of Nick Fortes. Like he was very good at handling that. He was a good receiver, good blocker. So they're prioritizing catcher defense, and it seems like Tampa got better in the catcher defense department by bringing Fortes in.
Agreed. Let's move over to Tigers bolstering their pitching staff. The Tigers receive pitcher Chris Paddack and again a reliever Randy Dobnak. Well, you can also
No,
maybe
he's making $1 million in the minor leagues right now to start and throw to a 7 ERA.
starter Randy Dobnak to the Twins for Enrique Jimenez. Um, I know why the Tigers made this deal. Reese Olson looks like he's going to be out for the remainder of the season with an injury. That's just so tough because,
Yeah.
he's a guy that you can pencil in, not just obviously in the rotation, but in the playoff rotation. We're talking about Skubal, Flaherty, Mize, Olson. We got our four. And all the Tigers need to do is add another piece to get them through the regular season. And with Reese Olson going down, they go trade for Chris Paddack, who's just kind of one of those dependable arms. He's actually pitching right now, and I think he's pitching okay. He's pitched to a 4.95 ERA this year. He's going up against the Diamondbacks right now, and he's thrown 5 innings, one earned, four strikeouts, lowering his ERA to 4.81. I think the Tigers, when they inevitably make the playoffs, or at least I think they will, they're playing a little bit better lately. I know they had a crazy bad slide. You're going to go Flaherty, or excuse me, Skubal, obviously, then
Yes.
Flaherty, then Mize, and maybe it's a bullpen game. Maybe you go Paddack for a couple of innings, or maybe there are more moves to be made in the starting rotation. But I don't it's not that crazy of a deal. And I don't think it takes the Tigers out of adding potentially another starting pitcher, even though Troy Melton, after putting up great numbers in the minor leagues, had a really rough start in his first start against Pittsburgh, where he gave up 6 runs at PNC. But again, it's a rookie making his debut on the road. We'll give him a break there. Comes right back around 6 innings of shutout baseball. So he's another arm that they can continue to build around. But I think the Tigers, what I'm hoping they get is a playoff pitcher. Like I think Paddack gets them through the regular season. I would love to see them add a bona fide starter that can make playoff starts. But if they don't, I understand a chaos Paddack type deal. But if that is so, we need to start adding bullpen arms. Maybe go call the Angels.
I still hope they're not done. They have too good a system to not push the chips for just a little bit. And I'm not saying top flight, like go get somebody with 2 years of control. I'm just saying, like, the Tigers should be inquiring about a Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly would make a lot of sense in a Tigers uniform right now. And I know that AJ Hinch is comfortable with chaos. We saw them get to the postseason with chaos on the mound last year. I'd prefer if that wasn't the case. And Paddack, it doesn't feel good if he's starting a game four. I'm totally with you. Um, it's nice to have him as backup, but also you got two guys that can hold innings for you, and you only gave up, your 20th prospect or something like that, and a guy that probably wasn't going to catch for you at the big league level at any point, given where Lorenzo is at and where Dingler is at. So I don't know. I hope they're not done. That's my big thought on Detroit.
Yeah, I hope they're not done either, but we will see. I would also like to see them potentially add Gino Suarez. I think they could really own the deadline here, but again, we will see. Last
Yep.
but certainly not least, one of the biggest moves because he's the greatest pinch hitter that's ever existed.
Yeah, it might be least.
The Yankees add outfielder Austin Slater in a trade with the Chicago White Sox, and this comes to us from And That's Baseball. It's at And That's BB.
Yeah.
Pinch hitting leader since 2016. Austin Slater has a 2.2 F4 in these situations, a 147 WRC plus, a 385 WOBA for Slater off the bench. And that's exactly what the Yankees are doing here. They're adding a bench bat that can go and hit lefties. He's got an 856 against left-handed pitching this year. And even on Baseball Reference, when you search him up, and when they give you the positions, it even says pinch hitter in his bio. Or at least I saw that on Twitter and I did not fact check it. I hope that's true. If you could just quickly search Austin Slater on Baseball Reference and make sure that pinch hitter is in his listed number of
Yes.
positions,
Outfield pinch hitter and first baseman. Yeah.
that's elite. And it's deserved because he is. But the Yankees, they're so stacked with left handed bats that they needed to add a couple of righties where they can mix and match in order to go up against obviously left-handed starters. You add
Yep.
Ahmed Rosario, you add Austin Slater, and the prospect in the return, not a huge deal. If you go to
Dave Zeal.
Arms, if you go to
Yeah.
Arms Yankee prospect list, he is in one of the
Fine.
honorable mentions, so he's not a nobody by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But I like it, right? Brian Cashman is making kind of under the radar moves, but he's addressing needs. The Yankees need to be better against left-handed pitching. And of course, with Judge down right now and none of us really knowing how long it's going to be, doesn't hurt to add more right-handed bats.
Yeah, Austin Slater had a down year entirely in 2024. He was just kind of bouncing back and forth. But you look at what he's done in his career against left-handed pitching, and he's been great. 73 games with a 288 average and an 800 OPS in 23 with San Francisco. This year, you mentioned the 860 OPS against left-handed pitching with the White Sox, but in his career, he's an 800 OPS guy against left-handed pitching. It was a cheap option. It's not Randall Grichuk, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah. So I think that'll do it.
Couple things to plug. Number one, trade deadline live stream will be up on X and YouTube through the Just Baseball channels. I will be hosting that starting at 5 p.m. Eastern today, Thursday, which is the hour leading up to the deadline. Going to have kind of a revolving door of guests pop on over the course of that final hour leading up to the trade deadline. And then we're going to stay on for about 30 minutes after the fact before Peter and I record the Just Baseball show, highlighting everything of that MLB trade deadline. So again, 5 p.m. Eastern is when that live stream starts. And then we also have a Just Baseball and Hit Seekers collab at the National in Chicago. That will be on Saturday. That's at 3 p.m. Eastern at the National in Chicago. Just Baseball Arm will be there. He's partnering with Hit Seekers for a card break, which is really exciting stuff. So those are the things we got to plug.
So that'll do it. And also, Deadline 20. Save 20% off on Just Baseball merch. Again, code Deadline20. You can find that in the episode description. A good way to support the Just Baseball show without spending a dime. Rate and review on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts 5 stars or wherever you listen to your shows, as well as subscribing, liking, and commenting on YouTube. And without further ado, let's welcome on Bailey, aka Foolish Baseball, to play Deadline Roulette. We welcome on to the Just Baseball show, Bailey Freeman, aka Foolish Baseball, friend of the program, and now reoccurring guest. Welcome to the show, Bailey. But I want to ask how you are, and I do care how you are. But right before we press the record button, Brian Hayes just got sent to the Reds. So my question now to you is, does that trade make you feel better or worse than when you first entered the show?
You know, it reminds me of a trade that was made this offseason, the Jimenez trade from Cleveland to Toronto. You've got, guys who signed like early pre-arb extensions that at the time felt like they were going to age pretty well. We had high floor, two of the best, infield defenders in baseball between Hayes and Jimenez. And you reached a point where, the Pirates were like, we don't want to pay this, for, what is essentially a glove only guy. And Cleveland sort of made the same calculation. but other teams may value it differently. So the Reds were like, yes, like we want to take on this contract. We think maybe, we could get him to hit a little bit more. The Blue Jays, they thought, well, at least the defense will raise the floor of the team. So if I had to make a comp for this deal, I think first and foremost, it reminds me a lot of, Cleveland dumping Jimenez off onto the Blue Jays. Someone who had, based on the return, still a positive surplus value, even though he might have been valued more in the negative for the club that originally signed the deal with him.
And so we're going to play a game here called Deadline Roulette, but I actually want to continue on this trade because this is a big time deal. And quite honestly, this deadline has been a little bit boring. So seeing Brian Hayes with 5 years of control is going for Sammy Stafura, a top 10 prospect in the Red system, and Taylor Rogers. I love it because not only is it weird, it's interesting at the same time. I posed the question on Twitter. The Reds should be buying bullpen pieces, not selling them. Now, you could say, well, Taylor Rogers has a 2.45 ERA. Why would they sell him? Well, check out the inherited runners statistic. He's not exactly keeping them off home plate, but he does have a 2.45 ERA. He's been pitching a long time. I am curious why the Reds would part with a reliever, regardless of how not great he has been. And why are then the Pirates wanting a reliever in this deal? I understand getting a good prospect in Sammy, but also attaching yourself to a reliever, that didn't make sense to me at all.
No, for me, the Pirates' perspective of getting Rogers doesn't make much
Yes.
sense. A reliever on an expiring deal. It would only make sense in the context of, we think we can flip this guy, essentially. We think that the price for bullpen is going to be high at this deadline. And I mean, if that's the case, they have 24 hours to figure out what to do with Rogers. But otherwise, having him, it seems like if you're going to trade Hayes, you would want a piece that's more built to the future than the present, obviously.
And just to wrap up on this deal, are you a Brian Hayes believer? Because the belief has gone in and out of this show. I have always been of the thinking that I just don't think he's going to end up hitting. And that was from the very beginning. And, you check some of the underlying metrics for the Brian Hayes believers, and they say, as long as he just can lift the ball, he's hitting the ball plenty hard enough, just put the ball in the air. And I thought to myself, well, that means he probably have to change his entire swing. So I don't think that's just going to happen automatically. Yes, in a perfect world, that would be great. And that would make him a better player. But you see the swing and he's swinging down at everything. It's level. It's not geared for pull side power. So I thought it would never click, and it still hasn't to this point. But you can't deny how good the glove is. It is box office. It is one of the best gloves in Major League Baseball. So there's always the hope that he can tap into that offensively. So where are you out on Hayes? Are you still a believer? Are you not so much on the bat, but you know that he could provide value on the glove? Where are you at?
He is what he is. I think he's played enough of a, sample size throughout his career. He is what he is. I think sort of the basis of this trade is saying, hey, we, the Pirates, could not unlock that bat. Maybe another organization can. Maybe he can be more valuable with Cincinnati. But my expectation would be, continuing going forward, this is going to be a below average hitter at a position where ideally you have an above average hitter, or at least average hitter, who just so happens to play, platinum glove defense. And look, he's one of those guys. He can be a 2, 3, 4 WAR player even when he's not hitting all that well because the defense is so great. But I think, for me personally, I don't necessarily value those guys as high because even with someone like Hayes, who is elite defensively, purely just based on the eye test as well, getting WAR from, defensive metrics and base running is more dubious than getting it from your bat. It's just a more imprecise measurement. And so I would probably come out, a little bit negative on Hayes and a little bit negative on, the money on this deal long term, with the caveat being, obviously if they can unlock his bat and it's a league average bat or higher, he's going to be, extremely valuable player.
One quick thing too, just to wrap up. Elly De La Cruz, we love Elly. And, if you look at some defensive metrics, they like his range, obviously. The arm is out of this world. But a simple statistic like errors, even though he gets to more balls, so he's going to make inevitably more errors, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he has been one of the league leaders in errors for the past couple of seasons. So to put Brian Hayes to help him over there at third, I think is only going to help Elly De La Cruz's defense as well, while also just making the Reds in totality a better defensive team. So I understand why they did it. I hope they can unlock that bat a little bit. And even if it's slight, right, if he can get up to a 700 OPS, he's a valuable player. Now, will he? That remains to be seen. So here's the game, Bailey. Here's the game, and I'm really excited to do this. It's called Deadline Roulette. So I have two different wheels. One wheel has buyers. Another wheel has sellers. So the game is, I'm going to spin the wheel, and you're going up first for a buyer and a seller. We're going to pair them together. Again, it's randomized. And you're going to try and come up with a deal between those two teams. And then I, responding to you, are going to give you a grade from 1 to 5. And we're calling them big booms. Shout out AJ. Shout out Big Justice. On how realistic that trade could be. Sue us. It's the day before the deadline. That's when we're recording, but you're hearing this on deadline day. We're going to have some fun, and I can't wait to do it with you, Bailey. So let's start with the randomizer wheel. But before we do, I did put the Angels on the buyer's side.
They bought. They got Luis Garcia.
So I was getting a lot of pushback. Again, I'm sorry, before we begin the game, I just have to ask Bailey this. I've been getting a lot of pushback because I just posted something anti-Angels about them buying. I thought it was a reasonable take. And Jack and I already discussed it. So without giving you my take first, but you do know that I am negative, are you pro or against what the Angels are doing here?
I think I'm pro because they just don't have, unless you're talking about moving, like really good controllable guys. I just don't think they have that much on the roster that it's like, okay, I would like piece this out and trade this away because this is, someone whose team control ends at the end of 2025. So, it's like, it's Artie Moreno, man. Like they're going to go for it. You just know it. You remember when they went for it during the last Shohei year and they got Giolito and Lopez, and it was, it was the same sort of long shot then as it is now, so I wouldn't expect it any different.
So I think I understand where you're coming from because you're operating from the position where you kind of expected them to buy.
Right.
I did too. But I don't think that means that it's right because the Angels, you're saying they don't have a lot of pieces that they could net prospects for. Someone would give up something for Kenley Jansen. I think the Padres would definitely give up a sizable return for Taylor Ward. And then you got a couple other names who are just going to net you decent pieces. You can get in your bag, Artie Moreno. You can get your bag, Perry Manassian, and find prospect in these teams that you like in order to rebuild a farm that is bottom 5 in Major League Baseball. So it's an Angels team that is always kind of foolishly bought, and it's never really materialized for them, especially over the last decade. So why are we expecting this to help them now? I just feel like they're delaying the inevitable rebuild.
There is no rebuild. That word does not exist in their lexicon, Peter.
Unfortunately, you're right. Let's get to the game. So I'm going to spin the wheel. So we got easy one up. Your buyer, Bailey, is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And your seller is beep, 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 the St. Louis Cardinals.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
So get in your bag. The Dodgers,
yeah.
They could use some bullpen pieces, certainly. Wouldn't mind a starter. What do you think about Mookie playing short? Are we moving him off the position? Are we getting a corner outfielder to take over for Michael Conforto? Whatever you want to do, give it to me, and then I'll give you a grade 1 to 5 big booms.
I guess we're trying to trade for Helsley. I think that's where the Dodgers are at if they had to, pick a player that's available off of this team. And the Dodgers have no shortage of prospects. I don't know if Hope or Rushing, that might be a little steep. Is he a free agent after this year? Is that where he's at right now?
Pretty sure, yeah. So
this would be a rental.
This would be a rental closer who's not having the best year he's ever had, but he's still been very, very solid. It definitely wouldn't cost any of those big-time prospects, but I'm thinking like a Dodgers 6th best prospect, right? I think they just called up Alex Freeland. Maybe that would be even too much. Again, I'm not a prospect expert, so this part is tough for me. But what I will say is it's probably going to cost a top 10 prospect in the Dodgers system and then probably another top 20 prospect in their system.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind that was also in the Michael Busch trade is Jackson Ferris, the pitcher. So he would be one that would maybe be more like sort of that you, closer like a probably like a 45 plus valued prospect if I had to guess. If I had to put a grade on him. So maybe someone like him and then someone, outside of that top 10. Yeah, I think that would sort of be the basis of the trade. The other one I'm thinking about is they have the guy that they traded Gavin Lux for,
Mm.
Mike Sirota, who is having a monster year. I wonder if that's too steep, but I also kind of think the price of a closer of Helsley's quality for 2 months is gonna run steep. So yeah, I'm gonna say like one of like Ferris or Sirota, like around that kind of tier of prospect for them. Both really good.
Both really good. And the Dodgers, though, I don't think they'd trade Mike Sirota for anything. And here's the reason
Yeah,
why. They scouted him out of high school. Then he gets drafted to the Reds, and then he's the guy they're targeting in the Gavin Lux deal. And then ever since he's gone to LA, obviously in their farm system, he's been crushing baseball. So that's probably one of their pet projects that,
yeah.
I'm sure, of course, they'd trade him in a huge deal. But for a rental reliever, I don't see it. But I think Ferris is a good headliner, in a deal for potentially Ryan Helsley. How can I not give you five big booms on this one? I mean, it's
Is there
perfect,
a,
right?
is there a gesture that goes with the big booms? I've seen it before. I know this is an audio platform.
Well, it is on YouTube too, so we got to give him the
Okay.
big booms, right?
That's
It's
that.
give him
It's
the
that.
flex.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. You got all five, Bailey. You got all
Okay.
five. All right, now it's
Well,
my. Go ahead.
it lined up for me beautifully, I must say.
It did give you a softball to start. So now it's my
Yeah.
turn. Let's spin the wheel. Beep, 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 beep. My New York Yankees. Perfect. I promise you, people, I know that you can't see the wheel on YouTube, but I did get the Yankees. And then we are going to spin for a seller. Beep, beep, beep. The Arizona Diamondbacks. Couldn't be more
Ooh,
perfect. So my
beautiful.
original wish was, of course, Geno Suarez, but I totally understand why the Yankees went with Ryan McMahon, more years of control, much better defender than Geno Suarez is. And, the Yankees, they have the best offense in baseball by WRC plus. So to go defense first over, a over an offensive bat like Geno Suarez, I get why they did that. So it's not going to be Geno. And unfortunately, I think the Yankees really need to add some bullpen arms. But of course,
Mhm.
they could use a starter. And the D backs have two of them with Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. I got to be honest with you, Bailey. I think I want Merrill Kelly over Zach Gallen.
I think that's right. I really do. I kind of was fading Gallon a little bit coming into the year, and my worst fears have come into fruition for him.
And Gallen, of course, I think is more upside, right? His best start is probably going to be better than Merrill Kelly's best start. But I think Merrill Kelly's five medium outcome starts are better right now than Zach Gallen. And what the Yankees need is just a dependable guy who will eat innings. So I'd like to acquire Merrill Kelly from the Arizona Diamondbacks. And who would I give up? It's not really going to cost much, right? He's a rental guy. He's not having the best season in the world. If I just pull up the Yankees farm system, who are we thinking? Who's on the top of your mind for a
I
Yankees
will say, I
prospect?
think he's having a pretty good year.
He is having a good year. I just wouldn't say that he's having like an unbelievable year where it's going to cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah, I was looking at, I was talking about this, and I cheated on you yesterday, but I was talking with Talking Jake, another Yankees aficionado, and I was sort of looking at, for a good rental pitcher, someone in the range of Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, who they got in the Narvaez deal. But I think you're looking for them probably, around between the 5 to 10 range, maybe one of those, maybe Rafael Flores,
I was thinking Ben
um,
Hess. You package
Ben
like
Hess.
Ben
Yeah.
Hess, and I know they want pitchers too. So we could go with Ben Hess, who's a top 10 prospect in the Yankees system. Um, and then we could probably be looking at like a Kyle Carr, right? He's a 23-year-old ETA 2026, left-handed prospect, two arms. Again, I know that if they're trading an arm, they certainly want arms. And I know the Diamondbacks, with all of their pieces, they're looking to add pitchers. So give him two arms, get Merrill Kelly over to New York. What do you think? How many booms?
I like it. I think the Diamondbacks they want their pitchers, right? They've kind of made that clear at this deadline that they want that. So I think for that reason alone, I'm going to give you a five big booms.
Boom, boom,
Boom,
boom,
boom, boom,
boom.
boom.
Bailey and I are booming so far. We gotta make sure that one of these is really, really tough. We got to challenge
Oh
ourselves.
yeah.
Bailey, you're up now. Your buyer is the New York Mets,
Okay. Familiar with them.
and your seller is the Washington Nationals. You got an in-division trade.
Ooh.
And I actually said in our trade deadline predictions episode, and now I think I'm wrong because they did get Jake Eater and Sam Brown. We'll see how those prospects end up. Jake Eater's actually not really a prospect anymore, but regardless, I thought the Nationals were going to have a really tough time at the deadline because they have a lot of expiring pieces that I don't think anybody really wants. And I know that sounds mean, but it's my truth, and I'm going to speak my truth. And unless you have an argument for a piece that you think the Mets would really want, I think this one's going to be kind of tough.
I'm gonna, and when it's tough, I gotta swing for the fences here.
Let's do it.
So this is, listen, the people are not gonna be happy with this one, but the thing about this Nationals rebuild is some of the timing on some of these players isn't working the way they want it to. They have guys up there like James Wood who are super young, but then you look at it, you're like, well, this rebuild kind of started when we got guys like, we also got Mackenzie Gore in that trade. We also got Abrams in that trade. And those guys are starting to get into the RBers, like their amount of team control is less than you would hope for where the Nationals are at in their rebuild, I think is fair to say. So the crazy one I would throw out there is, do you go ahead and do you trade a Mackenzie Gore? Right. And if you do, know you're getting a really, really steep return from a Mets farm system that is actually, I think, equipped to deal with it. I'm going to look at how many years of Gore you have after this. Someone who's having a career year. Gore would have 2 more years of ARB after this before he hits free agency. So you're trading for 2.5 years of Gore. I would say it's kind of comparable a little bit to like Joe Ryan is someone whose name has been thrown out there. Another guy who still has years after this, but is pitching at a very high level. And I think if you're the Nationals in return, I mean, for 2.5 years of Gore, like, I mean, Jet Williams, I think is a potential piece in this deal. That's the Mets. Some people think he's the Mets number one. I'm not sure if I agree. I'm a big Jonah Tong guy. I would maybe avoid trading him. But I mean, I think you're looking at Williams potentially getting moved here. I think you're looking at McLean potentially getting moved in this trade. And then maybe Clifford too. This is maybe even, you start to comprise the package like this where you're going to have two or three of the Mets better prospects to try to get Mackenzie Gore, because if there's one area where they're lacking, it's maybe just that absolute frontline starter, and that's kind of the guy he's been this year.
So here's what I appreciate. I appreciate you swinging for the fences here, and I appreciate you also finding a deal that makes sense for the Mets. Here's the thing, though. This makes absolutely no sense for the Washington Nationals for a few reasons. Number one, we've talked about it on the show before. I think, and Arm even uttered this, so I'm just going to copy what he said. This is a huge FU to Nationals fans if you were to trade Mackenzie Gore. Look at the Nationals right now. Who is a pitcher that is then going to supplement what Mackenzie Gore is going to give you over the next 2.5 years? Now, you might say, well, Peter, is the contention window open in the next 2.5 years? Now it might make sense to trade him. I get that, but at the same time, you have to start building something, right? And you haven't really been able to develop pitching outside of Mackenzie Gore. And your top pitching prospect, Travis Sikora, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that last name, just went down with Tommy John surgery, right? So you don't have any pitchers in the fold outside of maybe now Harlan Susana, who is still a work in progress. So if you're trading then Mackenzie Gore, you have to get a Jonah Tong in return. You would have to get a premier pitching prospect for it even to make somewhat sense. But how can you, as the Nationals, rebuild in a Juan Soto deal, which they got a haul, and then already start rebuilding that deal? That I feel like is just, like Arm said, a huge FU to Nationals fans. And unfortunately, Bailey, I got to give you 1.5 booms just because it's in division. And that's not your fault. You got screwed. You got screwed by the wheel. The wheel got you. It made you pair the Mets and the Nationals. And why this exercise is so hard, what, are you going to give them Kyle Finnegan? You could.
You
the
could.
Mets what? Kyle Finnegan?
Let me ask you this, Pete. Are you playing good cop, bad cop with the wheel? The wheel is the bad cop, but you're going to be the good cop. You say, no, it's the wheel's fault. The wheel did this to you, but you're the one who gave me the 1.5 booms, Pete.
I think it's a fluid situation here. I think I'm adjusting based off what the wheel gives us. Like the wheel is the truth, and I think we just have to adjust, right? I didn't say this is going to be easy. This is a tough one. So unfortunately, 1.5 booms. But I
Wham, wham,
expect
wham.
I expect you to hold me to the same qualifications here. All right, my turn to spin. And again, we're going to do 5 trades each. Bailey has done 2. I've done 1. We have a winner. The Toronto Blue Jays is my
Ooh.
buyer, and my seller is the Colorado Rockies. Well,
Ooh.
this one is easy because the Rockies are a confirmed seller. The reason why it's hard is because the Rockies don't have that many good players. But they did already trade Tyler Kinley to the Braves. That's something. And we actually floated on the show Ezekiel Tovar could potentially make sense to be moved just because the Rockies are at such a rock bottom that I think that would net them a decent prospect package. But we're not going to be trading Ezekiel Tovar over to the Blue Jays because, of course, they have Bo Bichette. An easy one. I mean, pick your favorite Rockies reliever. You like Seth Halverson? You like Jake Bird? Which one do you want? I'll take
I,
Seth. He throws gas.
I would take Seth, and Victor Vodnik too also throws gas too, and that's another guy that could get moved.
Who throws the hardest between them? I want
I
him.
would say Halverson would be my guess.
I'll take, so we're going to take Halverson. Jake Bird has been, he made major headlines earlier this year as just an unbelievable reliever. He hadn't allowed a run at Coors Field for the majority of the first half, and then the wheels started to fall off. He would certainly be, a good reliever, but I'd rather take Seth Halverson, and it's not going to cost the Blue Jays much. It's going to be somewhat similar to the Seranthony Dominguez trade, where they traded a pitcher with some upside. In this deal, who should we include for a Rockies reliever? Let's go over to the Blue Jays prospect list again, which you can find on justbaseball.com. And let's
Maybe
just
one of their like sort of log jammy left-handed bats that haven't broken through like Addison Barger is one thought.
I'm looking at Josh Kasevich. He's in AAA right now. He's a shortstop. He is a righty, though. But I agree with you. I think it has to be one of these bats. I mean, is Aurelvis Martinez too much? I think that's too much for Seth Halverson.
Like, where are we at on like a Alan Roden, or someone like that?
With the
I think
Rockies, I think the Rockies are taking away booms.
Ooh.
Would they want Alan Roden?
I mean, maybe not for Halverson. I think you got a lot of years of Halverson is the issue.
That's the thing. So I think it's going to be. Should we just piss off Blue Jays fans and give them Aurelvis Martinez just to jumpstart October the best way we can?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I mean, it's not going to happen, but sorry, Blue Jays fans, for this exercise, we got to give him Aurelvis Martinez. Just give it to him. The Rockies could use him. So how many booms, Bailey?
He has a 669 OPS in AAA. It's time for a change of scenery, Aurelvis.
Get him in Coors.
Get him in Coors. We are going to give this, Pete. We're going to give this. You played it a little safe. You went bullpen. We're going to give you a 3 out of 5 booms.
Okay, I think that's fair because it's so safe, it's so easy that I don't deserve 5. Right? Helsley was perfect. Merrill Kelly felt perfect. Giving the Blue Jays another Rockies reliever? Yeah, fine. It makes sense. I understand. 3 booms.
Can I say something? I had a Tyro Estrada thought. I know, it was just a thought. Maybe just get another infielder in there,
That could have gotten us to 4 booms.
Potentially. I'll never reveal.
I'll just went safe though. All right, Bailey, it's your turn. Well, you got the Blue Jays again. So do you want to respin or do you want to keep it with Toronto?
Let's respin. Let's get some variety here.
Let's get some variety. All right, we got the Yankees again. All right, we're going to respin again. Don't worry, we got 16 sellers on this list. Perfect. The Texas Rangers, Bailey.
Great team.
You could get real creative here, and your seller is the Miami Marlins.
Ooh, okay.
Rangers and the Marlins. Let's see how you cook.
Oh, I gotta think here. So I'll tell you my first instinct is I don't want to do a pitcher because even though it would make sense, it's like, is there someone here we're forgetting about, right? Is there a way we can help out this lineup a little bit? A lot of lefties there in Texas. Josh Smith, Corey Seager, Jock Peterson, Evan Carter in the lineup now. Do we need a righty bat to complement that? Do we need where do we go?
I mean, do we have to go left-handed focus? I mean, if I'm looking at this outfield right now with the Dolis, Evan Carter and Langford, like it sounds good, and they don't need an outfielder. I'm just thinking about a name like Jesus Sanchez potentially being available and how that would make sense.
Yeah.
But maybe the Rangers don't necessarily need to add an outfielder, but I would like to see them add a bat here. You think Jesus Sanchez can play first?
Yeah, that would be the one thought. Or is he a better center fielder than one Evan Carter? I think they'd rather just at least find out what they have with Evan Carter rather
I
than give it
agree.
to Jesus Sanchez. Um, I may have to go pitcher here. That may be the safe play. And so I guess we're gonna trade. I mean,
It's
I
tough.
guess it's Sandy, right? Is it
Did
Sandy?
did we just get the first brow wipe of the podcast? Are we already
We
sweating
we
out
got
these
the first
deals?
brow and we got the first eye roll probably when you said Marlins.
Yeah. So sorry. I think I cut you off. Which direction are you going here?
I think do we go Sandy? No, let's go. You know what? Let's change it up a little bit. Let's go Eddie Cabs. Let's go Edward Cabrera because it's not
Okay.
just it's young guy who's probably still available, having a good year. Get him here into the mix. I look at guys like sometimes in this, rotation, like yes, DeGrom and Eovaldi are starting playoff games for you. Is Corbin not just a guy who's helping you win in the regular season now and then is getting thrown into like a low leverage bullpen role by the time October rolls around? You know?
Yeah. I'm thinking about the Rangers too. What would they send over for a guy like Edward Cabrera? Because I get where you're coming from here. I like Edward Cabrera, right? We've talked about it on the show plenty of times. Like he's a guy who, you know, where's the command? Are you staying on the field? And then this year, not only is he staying on the field, the command's been much better. We've always known he's had disgusting stuff. So if he's putting it all together, I mean, we can really make some noise here. But the problem is, do the Rangers have the system to do it? And I think they do. I don't know why I said they have a problem. That was must have just been me just babbling as I look through these prospects.
Yeah, there's a couple arms I really like. One of which is a little bit Edward Cabrera like, and it's Emiliano Teodo.
Yeah,
Another electric arm like Cabrera's, who carries some reliever risk like Cabrera, I'm sure has throughout his career with the the walk rates. Mitch Brad as well is in that system. That's two pitching prospects I really like, and I think you would maybe have to start with those guys. And then probably add from there because we're looking at 3.5 years of Cabrera, even though he's someone who I presume is going to be on the trade market. One guy I looked at recently with them is Devin Fitzgerald. This is a shortstop prospect they drafted last year, who's having a very strong season and is maybe the type of in the lower level of the minors, higher upside, more fuzziness type prospect a team like the Marlins, who are still in a long-term rebuild, would trade for rather than, big league readiness. So, I would maybe start the package, something like that. Yeah, but I'm not sure if I really know how to value someone like Edward Cabrera, who has all the potential in the world. This year's having the best year of his career, and yet, 3 more years of him after this.
I think that's the toughest part. Is what is Edward Cabrera worth? Because if he continues on this path, Marlins fans should be getting more than what you just said.
For sure.
But he's one of the riskiest players because he could revert right back into dealing with health issues, dealing with command issues, right? So again, if you're a team adding Edward Cabrera, it's basically the eye of the beholder. So I think how we should operate this exercise is you're the eye of the beholder.
Right.
That's how I feel like we should do this. So if you're saying we are willing to give you two top 10 prospects in our system, both of those two pitchers that you named, and a lower level shortstop prospect like that, my question to you then, Bailey, to wrap up this one before we move on to mine, would you do that if you're Texas?
I would do that if I'm Texas for sure. But the question is, I don't think I would do it with Miami,
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could. These pitching prospects, there's just still so much variance between them. And it's like, okay, what are we doing this for? In the hope that one of these guys turns out to be as good as Edward Cabrera, who we have now for still 3 more years. So I know I'm arguing against myself in the big boom rating here, but I hope the wheel and you will recognize my radical honesty.
The booms are recognizing. I can hear AJ and Big Justice in my ear. I'm gonna pretend I'm in studio and they're my producers being like, give them some more big booms for this one.
I wonder, and I hate to talk back to it, but like, was Dane Myers the answer? Like he's a
Might have
guy
been
I've
the
talked
answer.
about because you've got good center field defense there, like could complement Carter to some degree. Maybe that was the answer. I don't know, but we're sticking with Eddie Cabs. What I said goes.
I like Dane Myers. I like that shout, but I like the Rangers swinging for the fences here and getting Edward Cabrera. So I'm gonna give you 3.5 big booms. I'm gonna
That's
give
very
you
kind
three
of
and a
you.
half big booms, and the only reason it was supposed to be four, but you talked yourself back into it, or
Yes,
talk
right. I
you
had
talked
to.
yourself out of it. So that's why I
Correct.
got lowered. But I still love the idea enough to be four. But because you said it yourself, you wouldn't do it if you're Miami. We got to knock it down to 3.5 big booms. All right,
Fair.
let's move. Let's move over to my third one. Let's look at the sellers or the buyer's wheel. I got the Yankees again. Come on, wheel. Give me someone else. The Chicago Cubs, perfect,
Ooh.
is my buyer. And my seller is the Cleveland Guardians.
Oh.
We could get real drastic here. So I'm thinking about if I'm the Cubs, what do I need? I need a starting pitcher, and I also could use some bullpen arms. And we go to the Cleveland Guardians because, again, I don't need to add a bat from the Guardians. And it's not like the Guardians even have that many bats to give up. Notably, Stephen Kwan's name has been talked about in many of the rumor mills. I hate that idea, and
Mhm.
I'm boycotting that idea. He's cheap. You got years of control. The Guardians have not been to develop bats, notably develop outfielders. You have one that's everyone else. Like in Major League Baseball, I feel like if you polled fans, one of their favorite players is going to be Stephen Kwan, right? Everybody loves
Absolutely.
Stephen Kwan. So if you're the Guardians, it doesn't make sense to give him up. But they have a couple of names that I think the Cubs would like to have. Can I do a can I package two guys?
Absolutely.
Because I'm
You
kind
would
of
actually maybe get bonus points if you were successfully able to make the argument that they need two guys.
so I think that the Cubs could use a starter and a bullpen arm. And I think the
Mhm.
Guardians have that. But I'm looking at Tanner Bybee, Gavin Williams, Joey Cantillo, Slade Ciccone, and Logan Allen. I don't want to trade any of those guys. Well, I would trade Logan Allen, but I don't think the Cubs would really want him. I know who they might want, even though he hasn't thrown an inning so far this year. Shane Bieber. Now, according to
Right.
Mark Feinsand, the Guardians have been trying to push to trade Stephen Kwan and Shane Bieber. So, Cubs fans, do you want to capitalize on Shane Bieber for a postseason run? I know I would. And then how about this, right? Who's the oldest of the guard between Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, and Tim Herron? Tim Herron. What do the Cubs probably need as well? I think they could use some left-handed bullpen relief. What about a crazy trade? Tim Herron and Shane Bieber over to the Chicago Cubs. Now the problem is, what would it take? What would it take? It would probably
The
take.
Cubs do have log jammed prospects essentially
Do you
that they can
think?
trade from at this deadline if they really choose to.
Do you think we can center that package around Owen Casey? Because he's definitely blocked and he has just been crushing balls in the minor leagues. But you gave me another wince. That's wince number 2 on the show.
Is that too much? I don't know. I'm not sure how to value Heron because
Yeah,
his ERA was really good last year at 1.92, and this year the ERA is 4, and some of the ERA adjacent stats are closer to 5.
he's walking too many guys.
Yeah.
But I still like the upside of him. And is that too much in order to get Shane Bieber and Tim Herron? It might be.
But you know what? Here's what I think: the Cubs are in a Dodgersy type position
Yes.
where they are so prospect log jammed on some of these guys that they are going to have to pay a premium to move off them, if that makes sense.
I totally agree because every team knows that they're blocked.
Right? They know they might try to trade Kevin Alcantara, because they want to have Tucker in the outfield for the long term.
I am curious, who do you think they value more between Casey and Alcantara?
I think they probably value Casey more if I had to guess, but they are comparable. Alcantara might have higher upside of the two.
I
He's
agree.
just a very
And
projectable, in terms of his physique.
also younger too. And it's not like Casey's a great defender, but he just rakes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Let's do let's do Casey in this deal, and maybe we can upgrade to a Hunter Gaddis.
Yeah, no, I think that checks out.
So Casey, and then fill in your favorite filler prospect for Hunter Gaddis and Shane Bieber. You got to give me at least a couple of booms on that one.
That
That
is
was
that
pretty inventive.
that is gonna be 4.25 big booms. Four and a quarter.
Explain how I got there to a quarter. And was it close to
Well,
4.5, or is it actually closer to 4?
yeah, it was probably, if you want to be specific, like a 4.247, which we could round up to a 4.25. The reason being we waffled a little bit on which outfielder. That's what took it down from a 4.5 to the 4.247.
You know what I'm realizing? I think at the start we were too nice to each other. We were just giving out 5 booms like it was candy. And now
Right.
when, we spent some time now grilling each other, we're almost like, you know what? You'll be lucky to get 2. So the fact that
Right.
I got 4.27548 on that one, I'm feeling pretty damn good. I can't lie to you. All right, let's move on to your 4th trade. Remember, we just got a few left. I'll give you some. Your buyer is Bailey, the Houston Astros.
Ooh, okay.
And your seller is beep, 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 the Chicago White Sox.
Ooh,
Let's
okay.
get cooking there.
We could
Adrian
go somewhere with
Hauser
this.
has not been traded yet, even though it was
Yeah,
slightly reported this morning, but it won't be Adrian Hauser. They still got some pieces. It's gonna
they
be tough
do.
though. You gotta get in there.
I'm gonna have to get in there. I'm looking at this. Okay, I might have this figured out. I'm having thoughts. Oh, I'm having big thoughts. Um, you know, Mike Talkman's having a good year for them, if I recall correctly.
He just kind of always has a good year and nobody cares.
He does. He was batting leadoff fairly regularly for the Cubs last season and has continued to get on base for the White Sox this year. 367 on base percentage. He has 1.4 WAR in 55 games. You look at the Astros defense, and some of this is a little bit injury driven, but it's Taylor Trammell, it's Jacob Melton in center. You've got the rookie Cam Smith and right. I don't know. I think I could see Mike Tauchman being an upgrade. Even though I think Taylor Trammell like came up and was awesome for like 10 games, and everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, is this something here?" So yeah, I think Mike Tauchman, just because I want to get a position player off the board here, and this is a rare case where we might have a positional fit between the Chicago White Sox and the Houston Astros. You only live once.
So here's the thing. Is it crazy to say that I think this is the best fit that we've gone over so far? Because
No, it's very possible. It's very possible it
I
is.
think I think you're heading towards 5 booms here for a couple of reasons. Number one, everyone on the Astros is injured, right?
Yeah.
Isak Paredes, Jeremy Pena is going to be back soon, thankfully, but Isak Paredes did not get good news, and that's why the Astros have been in the news for potentially a reunion with Carlos Correa, asking the Cardinals and Arenado if he'll waive his no trade clause again, even though they already asked the first time, and he said no. Willie Castro potentially because of that news with Isak Paredes. But when you look at the White Sox, you're not really going to get a third baseman. But the reason I'm bringing up all these names, not a lot of them are outfielders. Now, you could say Yordan Alvarez is an outfielder, but can you say that?
No.
You want him
And
at
especially
DH.
they're gonna play it safe with him with the hand and all that. So he probably might not even see the field this whole year.
100%. So who is the outfielder coming back for the Astros? It's Jake Myers, a righty.
Ooh,
But they could
that's a
still
thought.
use a left-handed outfielder here. And
They
Mike
could. I think.
Tauchman is the perfect addition for them.
And doesn't Myers have pretty big splits throughout his career too, in terms of the righties and the lefties, if I recall correctly? Let's look
I
at
don't
those
think
real
this
quick.
year, but I think historically.
So 753 OPS historically versus the lefties versus 662 for the righties. So this is a complementary piece to Jake Myers once he comes back, and someone who probably plays every day until then.
And I don't think it's going to be expensive either for an Astros farm that can't afford to send over any solid prospects. So, Bailey, what can I say? 5 big booms. Boom, 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 boom. You crushed this one. You crushed it.
Well, and I just want to thank the Chicago White Sox for taking a flyer on Mike Tauchman.
Cooking, Chris Getz. Chris Getz can cook sometimes. So it's my turn. And we didn't go over the prospect return. It's,
It's probably not great.
it's probably not great.
Find their like 20th ranked prospect, and if he throws 98, we're taking him.
Exactly. So I just spun the wheel. I got Reds again, so I will spin it again. And I got Reds again. Come on, wheel. Don't do this to us. We only got a couple of trades left. The Philadelphia Phillies. Perfect.
Very good.
Perfect. Give me a team with a reliever just so I can make it real easy. Diamondbacks, I feel like I should spin again.
Yeah, we've done them as a seller.
Exactly.
A repeat would be okay, I think, at this point.
I agree. The Guardians again. Let me just spin again. I want to see if we can we'll do a repeat for our 5. The Marlins again. Should I just rock with the Marlins here because I have an idea for a Marlins reliever, or should I just spin again? I'm totally fine spinning again.
If you like where you're at with the Marlins, let's go for the Marlins.
Okay.
Because they do have a guy, and I think we're probably thinking about the same person.
All right. Should we say it on 3?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Ronnie
Anthony
Enriquez.
Bender. Oh, I said Anthony Bender.
So I'm down with both, right? Anthony
Yeah.
Bender, doesn't come with much control. Ronnie Enriquez does. And Enriquez has really burst onto the scene this year with electric strikeout stuff. But he could be a guy that the Marlins actually want to keep, right? As a bullpen guy to kind of not build your bullpen around him, but a valuable piece that they don't necessarily need to trade. While an Anthony Bender, I think, probably makes more sense. So unfortunately, I think the highest I could get here is 4 booms because I'm actually using yours. So I'm already operating at a bad spot, but we can try and get this to 4. Actually, no way, because what am I going to say? Anthony Bender for a decent prospect. This isn't very inventive and fun. Oh,
no. And I think there's potential bonus points here for your inventiveness. So I'd say just stick with your heart.
My heart says Ronnie Enriquez. And I have to try and get on the boom meter because if I take yours, I'm already at a deficit. So I have to go with Ronnie Enriquez. Comes with years of control. And the Phillies, this is Dombrowski's best system that he's ever worked with. Now, Enriquez is not going to be cheap, right? He is going to command, not the craziest prospect return, but a decent one. And I'm looking at some of these Phillies. I'd like to get a bat here just because I think the Marlins system could use an influx of bats. And in our other trade with Edward Cabrera, we gave the Marlins 2 pitchers. So I want to give them a bat here. Who am I thinking of?
Dante Nori is one I threw out in a mock trade at one point. He's their first rounder from last year. He's good speed, good defense. Hasn't, maybe hit quite as well as they were anticipating, but he's still young.
I think, I'm even thinking about Griffin Burkholder.
Oh, yeah. That'd be another good one.
Let me go with him just so I can get on the big booms meter, because I know if I'm just taking your ideas, I'm going to get docked in terms of booms. So that's going to be one of the prospects that I center this package around. He's a 19-year-old outfielder. He's a righty. Who knows what he could be? Maybe he could be the next great Marlins outfielder, and all you have to give up is Ronnie Enriquez in return. But at the same time, Phillies fans, you're getting a bullpen arm with high-octane stuff that could get guys out in big situations, and obviously has the National League East pedigree. So I didn't take any of your ideas technically. Where am I at on the boom meter?
Peter, you have earned yourself 3.75 booms to complement the 4.25 from earlier. Yeah, that gives you 8 in the last few. Here's what I think. Well, one thought I just had. I think in the future, currency will be replaced by booms. So just save your booms now while you can, right?
Bitcoin is
the United
overrated.
States dollar, Bitcoin, it's over. We're only spending on big booms. My second thought, I do like the pivot from Bender to Enriquez because I don't think it's unrealistic that a team in the Marlins position or a team that is still, at least from their perspective, in a longer term rebuild would have a reliever that has lots of years of control left and think, maybe we should trade this guy. Maybe we should strike while the iron's hot. And, teams are salivating at the thought of trading for a guy that could be on their roster for four or 5 more years after this, So I like it for that reason. And so you got 3.5 out of 4, you limited yourself from the beginning, but that's like kind of getting 4.5 out of 5 if you really think about it.
I'll take it. And well, actually, to be fair to the boom meter, you said Bender, I said Ron Enriquez. I stayed with my gut. So
Right.
Shouldn't I be rewarded on the boom meter? And also, let me try and help my booms a little bit. Think about the Phillies bullpen for a second. who are the guys with years of control anyway? Like, who are the young bullpen arms outside of
It's
Kerkering?
just Kerkering, yeah.
It's just him, right? And the Phillies have been pretty good at filling up a bullpen, but it's more often than not because Dombrowski is going out of the deadline and adding guys like Carlos Estevez, right? Jose Alvarado goes down, another guy that the Phillies acquired, right? So I'm thinking of the Phillies finally have a guy in their bullpen like Kerkering who's going to stay with them for a while. The Phillies need that. So I'm pleading with you, Bailey. Up my boom meter.
Unfortunately, the booms will stay the same. Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say, Pete. I'm going to justify it.
Do
I'm
I
not
just
going to
make good
say
points? Do I make any good
yes.
points?
I'm going to go ahead and make a point. Okay, where the Phillies are at right now, the Romano thing didn't work. They're in sort of a closer by committee between Kerkering and Strom. And my question is, shouldn't they be going after a Helsley, Bednar, Duran type closer? Because I think by adding Enriquez, all you've done is muddy the waters of that situation. Now you just have a third closer in this committee, and I think maybe that's not quite what the goal here is. We
But
want Kerkering and Strom in their setup roles, and we want, just an elite closer up top.
but I'm a man of the wheel. I got the Marlins. They don't have a Helsley and Duran. I'm only working with what I got here. So let's move over to the fifth and final trade. Bailey, you're up. Let's spin the wheel. Your buyer is Toronto Blue Jays. I want to try and get all teams represented, so we're going to skip the Blue Jays here. San Francisco Giants.
Ooh, the buying San Francisco Giants. All
Is
right.
that fair?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I mean, they've been not playing good baseball lately, but it is Buster Posey. He already went for Rafael Devers.
Right.
And your seller is not the White Sox. We're going to spin the wheel again, try and get a different team. I don't think we've named the Pirates yet, have we?
Uh, gosh.
No, we talked about the Pirates.
We talked about them. Yeah.
But the Pirates haven't been in here, so that's who you got.
That's who I got. Well, and what's good is that Matt Chapman and Brian Hayes would have kind of stepped on each other's toes,
Yes.
so it's not going to be. It's all right that he's out of here.
100%.
Okay, this is an interesting one. Again, I'm looking at the lineup here, and I'm wondering about some of the infielders. They've got Casey Schmidt at second base, but the Pirates are not going to move off Nick Gonzalez. Where do we go from here? Paguero's in there for them. Ooh. I mean, Keller is Keller too. Is that chalk? Is Keller too chalk? Okay, here's where I might have to go for the situation.
Okay.
Okay, I'm thinking. I'm still
thinking. No, it's okay. It's our fifth and final one. This is a tough one because the Giants are also one of the toughest teams in this exercise.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think you can make a sound argument that they potentially should look at selling. I mean, haven't been a great team this year. I mean, they were, and then they've just fallen off recently. It's tough. I would say they need a lot of different positions, and the Pirates do have a couple of pieces that they could give them. So you can go a lot of different directions here, which is why it makes this a little difficult.
Yeah, I think, and there's part of me that wants to say O'Neal Cruz, there's that part of me. I don't think you're, at that point, I think Eldredge gets involved and they're like, well, why are we trading a left-handed big boy for another left-handed big boy,
We already have our left-handed big boy.
Yeah, we already have one of those. So I guess, I'm going to play it safe. I'm not going to say Bednar, but I am going to say Dennis Santana, who has had a sub-2 ERA since he got there. Dennis Santana, and some of these guys have been a little bit shaky for them. Like Ryan Walker, who was such a revelation last year, has been a little bit shaky. So I think sort of those type of innings that Ryan Walker's getting now, maybe he moves down the leverage chart a little bit, and that's Dennis Santana. It's an expiring deal, if I recall correctly. You know what? Scratch that, reverse it, Willy Wonka. We're gonna change it to Caleb Ferguson because I think we need a lefty more.
Okay. Okay.
Similar enough situation. It's a similar enough situation, and what are we going to give up for Caleb Ferguson? I don't know. I wonder if there's something about, proximity to the big leagues here that the Pirates themselves might value, and maybe even a guy they can give like a run to. So
you could give them another reliever because apparently that's what they want in deals like Brian Hayes.
I could.
I'm a different reliever.
I'm going to make a crazy call here, and then I'm just going to let you rate it on the big boom scale. this is gonna be like wholly overpay to a lot of people, but like this guy has like completely like flamed out his prospect status and needs a change of scenery and just is not making it work at the big league level. But I would just throw out like a Marco Luciano type guy, you know. I know that's crazy for like 2 months of Dennis Santana. I understand that's probably an overpay, but I think just for the sake of the discussion here, it's like, okay, you trade him now or you get nothing for him. You know what I mean? Like this, I mean, this dude just it has not worked out. He's been beat up. He's been injured at sort of key developmental times. And probably, with, Adames there and Chapman there and some of the outfielders, like he's probably just endeavored. He's probably just never going to get a shot, you know?
Yeah.
So if, I don't think you're moving him for Bednar necessarily. So we'll say a little Marco Luciano action. And then maybe we're taking a prospect back from the Pirates too, or something like that, or someone else who can help us out in some way.
So I like the inventiveness of this. I am surprised that you included Marco Luciano. I still feel like there's going to be some team out there that would want to try with Luciano instead of trading him for a Ferguson, right? Because
Right.
Ferguson, I understand they need a left-handed reliever, but I'm sure if Giants fans saw that come across the ticker, they might have a heart attack. Just being like,
Sure.
all this stuff with Luciano, we ended up trading him for 2.5 months of Caleb Ferguson. But Caleb
Right.
Ferguson, to his credit, has been a solid reliever. I expected you to really just launch into the Mitch Keller
Oh
area
yeah.
because with the
Sure.
Giants, right, you got Logan Webb at the top, you got Robbie Ray, you got Landon Root, and I know Verlander has put together some good starts lately, but I'd rather have a better starter in here. And then who's your fifth? Because Kyle Harrison is gone in the Devers deal. Jordan Hicks is gone in the Devers deal. They've tried to bring up Hayden Birdsong. Tristan Beck is a fine arm, but I'd rather have someone really, really solid. And Mitch Keller he's not a rental, right? So you do have him, I'm pretty sure, for a year and a half. So, and he's a guy who I feel like a change of scenery could help him because over the past 2 seasons, he's pitched to a mid threes in the first half. He's been an all-star caliber pitcher. And then the second half, he tails off. But he's a big arm, plenty of extension. He'd be an exciting guy to bring in. And then I still think Luciano and then some in order to get Mitch Keller should be the direction that the Giants go for. Rather than getting a bullpen arm, I agree with you. There have been some shaky guys. But wouldn't you say if you were rating every unit on the Giants, wouldn't you call the bullpen the best unit they have in totality? Or would you
I
disagree
would.
with that?
I would, yeah. It's just that I have a oppositional defiance. So when such a clear-cut case as Mitch Keller to the rotation, pops up, I have to say no. Let's be creative instead.
Sometimes you just got to take what's in front of you.
I
And that's
didn't.
why I have to give you 1.89 big booms.
Wow.
I have to,
Okay.
because I'm surprised by the price. And maybe I'm a casual. Maybe I'm expecting more from Luciano when there's nothing left. There's absolutely nothing left. So my boom meter could be a casual meter on that. You let us know in the comment section below on this YouTube video, Giants fans. Does Luciano have anything left? Because if he has a smidge left, I can't include him in a trade for a reliever like Caleb Ferguson. Now, could I be intrigued with Bednar or Dennis Santana? But you didn't include them. So unfortunately, Bailey, I got to put you at 1.8. But I did give you 5 earlier, so don't kill me on this next one.
That's very fair. You know who I think about a little bit with Luciano is if there's any hope for him, is it Ronnie Mauricio has sort of taken that path and appears to have done some good thing for the Mets this year, and it's been a similar amount of prospect fatigue for someone like him. So maybe there's still hope for Luciano. They're probably about the same age.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, let's do my final trade. The Red Sox, I don't think we've
Okay.
talked about them yet, are going to be my buyer, and my seller is, we'll refresh. It's the Marlins again. Come on, wheel. Nationals. Let's refresh one more time. We might get a repeat here, but I really want to try our best. The Oakland A's.
Good. Yeah, let's do that.
Perfect. So I got the Red Sox and the Oakland A's. I'm going to swing for the fences here, Bailey.
Go for it.
I'm going to swing here. The Red Sox could use a bullpen arm. But the Red Sox, I will give them credit. They aren't the pitching factory yet. It's definitely not fair to call them that. Like the Brewers or the Rays or the Dodgers or the Guardians or some of these other teams. but I think they're building something pitching wise that has to be admired. So they could do a lot of things with Mason Miller because Mason Miller was tried as a starter. Didn't exactly work, was dealing with arm trouble, so the A's converted him into this super reliever where he has just been unbelievable. So if I'm the Red Sox, I'd trade for him and he'd be my closer this year. I'm not converting him into a starter this year. He's just going to be my closer, especially with the Roldis Chapman hitting the shelf. I don't know exactly the update on him, but I know he exited a game just a few days ago. So hopefully he doesn't hit the IL, but I'm not sure yet. But let's assume he's not healthy right now, which he's not. You bring in that arm to that bullpen, we're making real noise, Red Sox. And then in the offseason, we can toy with turning him into a starter. Now it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a lot for Mason Miller. We got years of control. He's one of the best relievers in baseball. And if you could turn him into a starter, look what they have with Crochet. You could be making real noise here. But now, who is it going to take? Who is it going to take if you're the Red Sox?
I hate to interject here. I'm not sure if they got it. We'll see.
Do they have it? Because with the A's, potentially, because I look at the A's right now, they have, I'm just pulling up their roster right now. I want to take a deeper look into their outfield. Because, of course, you got Lawrence Butler, you got Tyler Soderstrom, and right now the right fielder is Carlos Cortez. The Red Sox have a lot of outfielders that they could potentially part with. Now, I'm sure the A's would like minor league pieces, but at the same time, you're building a real special offense here. Would you like a guy to come in and help you right now? So is Wilyer Abreu for Mason Miller straight up? Is that crazy? Is that crazy?
Okay, here's what I'm glad you didn't cheap out, right? I'm glad that if you are the A's and you're going to trade Mason Miller this year after not having done it last year when there were probably some pretty incredible offers potentially on the table for you, you need to get like an impact player, an impact, probably everyday bat. And Wilyer Abreu is that.
Yeah.
He is that. I mean, I think he is special. I think if you look at even his stats this year, and I know he's cooled off since April, like he is kind of underperforming based on how truly talented he is.
Yeah.
On how good his swing decisions are and how good defense he plays in a corner spot. Right field in Boston is like center or elsewhere. That was the whole thing with Betts playing right a lot of the times. There's just so much ground to cover. So for the sheer chutzpah, I'm just going to give you 4 big booms, Pete.
4, just right on the nose.
We're just being nice. We're just being nice. 4 big booms. So wrap it up nice in a little bow. But I'm not sure if this is happening.
It's definitely not happening. That's why I would even understand 2.5 booms because this isn't happening. But what I will say is, like, does it make sense in your mind, just in a vacuum? Does a Wilyer for Mason Miller trade, what does that do to your soul?
I mean, if I saw it on the X/Twitter timeline from passing. Yeah.
The no city designation Athletics
right
have agreed to deal Mason Miller to the Red Sox in exchange for Wilyer Abreu. The deadline is hot.
Yeah. That's his tweet. Unfortunately, my thought would maybe be
like,
what are the Red Sox doing?
What are you quote tweeting that with?
I'm quote tweeting that with oh boy, I'd sure love to congratulate the @Athletics account on Twitter about this. About this haul they got for a reliever,
But imagine turning him into a starter and what he could become.
And here's the thing. They have the blueprint. Crochet did this. He had the rush to the big leagues, became a starter. Unfortunately, there was a step there in the middle, which was TJ.
Yes. It's never going to happen, but I like the idea of it. And I think that's the point of this entire show. Is building ideas. We're just having some fun. Bailey, I hope you had a lot of fun too. Thank you so much for coming on. And you got a new baseball bits out. I'm actually halfway through. I was actually watching half of it while I was eating my lunch. And then preparing for the show, I'm going to watch the second half, Corey Seager. You really
and I don't want to spoil you because you're only at the first half, but let's just say at the end of the day, he is a good baseball player. If that was the bit of tension that was building up for you, don't worry. He is good at baseball.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Everybody, make sure to go check out that new Baseball Bits video. Make sure to go follow Foolish Baseball on Twitter. Again, if you aren't already, I don't know what you're doing. But Bailey, any parting words before we say goodbye?
You know, I think just if in terms of this trade deadline, my favorite trade deadline trades are the ones that have players that we wouldn't expect, that have many years of control afterwards, because seeing how different organizations value that is number one for me. So I'm excited to see what goes down in the next 24 hours. But for me, it's not about the rentals. It's about sort of the Jazz Chisholm type trades like we saw last year.
I agree. So let us know in the comments section below how many booms you given us on these deals. Do any of them make sense? Do they make no sense? Let us know in the comment section below. For Foolish Baseball, I'm Peter Apple. We will see you tomorrow, and be on the lookout too. We are going to do a trade deadline stream again at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're actually going to start it up a little bit earlier, so make sure on this YouTube page to be on the lookout for that. For Bailey, I'm Peter. With that, thank you, everybody.